What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Here we are at game number 5. It's going to be the final game in this series here between TyLooJim and Loner. This time we are on the map Metalopolis in the 6 o'clock spawn location. Our blue Terran player is Loner. And then over here in the 9 o'clock we've got TyLooJim as the red Protoss player. So yes, this is the 5th and final game here in the series. We are currently tied up 2-2 with TyLooJim winning the last game with a Immortal and Sentry heavy push. Also mixing in some Zealots and Stalkers there. The biggest thing though was that with his push, being so Immortal heavy, was able to quickly snipe out Marauders and then work down the bunkers of Loner. Loner did open up with a 2 racks into expand and relied on some bunker defense early on, but again with that Immortal heavy army was able to bust through that. In addition to that, some beautiful force fields there from TyLooJim were able to do 2 things. They were able to split the army in half of Loner, but also block the ramp from any guys coming down to help reinforce. Now they were able to shoot a little bit from the high ground, but unfortunately not quite enough. TyLooJim in that push ended up winning the game. So there you go. That was a little recap of last game, and here we are once more on game number 5, which is going to, of course, be the final game here in the series. All right, TyLooJim dropping down his gateway and then immediately heading out with his Pro Scout. And let's see where he decides to go. Juking back there for a moment. And then there we go, finally pulling on into the proper direction as he makes his way down into the 6 o'clock towards the Loner's base. Now it does appear like he is heading there early enough to actually attempt to get off a little bit of harass. One thing that is very notable right now, so Loner does not have a refinery yet, so Loner still just on that 1 racks. Going to almost imply right now that we will be seeing a 1 racks expand. So TyLooJim moving up should be scouting that out first, bypassing that racks. Immediately Loner pulls off an SCV just in case. The probe did attempt some harass there, and again responding by pulling down that SCV just in case. He just wants to buy his SCV here, building the racks a little bit more time, make sure he's nice and safe, and there you go, actually pulling down with that SCV that was engaging that probe momentarily, and now using him to get some scouting information. So Loner moving out with his SCV scout towards TyLooJim's base. TyLooJim making his way back into Loner's base right now, just confirming the fact that everything here is what he expects it to be. And there we go right now. Moving down with that SCV, we'll be attempting to drop the expansion, and there it is. Expansion is coming up right now for Loner. TyLooJim just pulling back as that first Marine is making its way on down. Back over here for TyLooJim, he was just building a Zealot. Looks like he decided to cancel that though, no longer having that Zealot in production. He's just about to finish with that Cybercore. With that, I expect there to be a Stalker right away, as well as that Warp Gate research, and there it is, just as expected. Here comes that first Stalker and the Warp Gate, both of which are being chrono boosted out right now. Probe sitting at the tower here, TyLooJim able to get a little bit of vision, although we're not expecting Loner to do much in the early stage of the game. Doubt we are going to see much harass from him at all. Now, given the fact that this SCV is quite vulnerable to any early game Stalker harass, look at this, Loner is actually coming out here with the bunker for his Marines early on to help shoo off any early Stalker pressure that we may be seeing here from TyLooJim. And just as I say that, TyLooJim making his way out with 1 Stalker, the Nexus coming on through there at his natural expansion. But once more, that Stalker will not be able to do much at all, as we're going to see this bunker complete and at least 3 Marines, number 4, coming on through here. In addition to that, we've got 2 more racks coming out, and the Stalker's going to move down, and he will just be scouting out this bunker and expansion, but again, won't be able to do much at all, and there we go. Forced to push back there is TyLooJim. TyLooJim just going to be chilling out with that, or does he decide to head back home? Guess it doesn't really matter either way. Back in the main, Loner again just coming out with these 3 racks, so we will be seeing Bio Heavy here early on. He is actually coming out with two refineries over here, none at the natural expansion quite yet. Should be quite content with these, especially if he is deciding to go for a Bio build. And ooh, SCV Scout trying to make it in the main, but gets force field blocked there by the Sentry, and the Stalker moves down to engage, and there it is. SCV does get taken out. So I do not believe that Loner got much scouting intel. No, he did not. And that means he's not seeing the fact that there is 2 more gateways and a robotics coming out here for TyLooJim. Nexus now up. We'll be seeing a transfer of workers right on down there. So we got some mining there at that natural expansion. TyLooJim, again, will be working with a 3-gate robo in the early stage of the game. That is a nice, healthy mix there. Production building is going to allow him to come out with a relatively strong gateway force. Also get that scouting there from the Observer and the robotics, and then possibly work his way into some Immortals. Besides that, he can of course come out with a Robotics Bay, which will allow him to get some Colossus, and look at that scan there. Loner getting a scan of the main base, just ends up seeing all of those production buildings, so he knows exactly now what he's up against. Realizes he's not dealing with anything fancy like any possible Stargate play. That is certainly a possibility, although not the most likely thing. It is something you have to That's something you have to keep an eye out for nonetheless. Now we have a Engineer Bay in play that's going to be coming out with that level 1 weapons upgrade here. Loner deciding to get some very early upgrades for his bio army. Pretty interesting indeed. Now that's going to be pretty indicative of a timing push, I am assuming. That in getting that Engineering Bay coming out with this upgrade so early that we will be seeing a timing push with the stim pack finishing as well as that level 1 weapons upgrade. I do expect Loner to move out with that. Most likely just trying to snipe this expansion. That's probably what we're going to be seeing from him. So TyLooJim will need to, of course, make sure that he's got enough to defend against that. At the moment, he is, as we can see, focusing on getting up a strong economy. He also has his bay coming on down, though. So we will be seeing some Colossus as soon as that finishes. I do expect to see that Chrono boosted out. As you can see here, Stimpack Research and the level 1 weapons upgrade about halfway finish. We also have that concussive shell coming on through. So there will be, I'm almost 100% certain right now that we are going to be seeing a timing push here from Loner. That's pretty expected at this point. Observer scout on the edge of the base, just wants to be able to see when and if that push does come through. Wants to make sure he's got enough time to be able to respond to that. It is also important to note that we can see here Loner is coming out with another bunker, so he himself is trying to make sure he can defend against any early aggression. Now that first Colossus right now being chrono boosted out for TyLooJim. The more time he has to get more Colossus out, the better off he's going to be. 1 Colossus is certainly going to help, 2 will be tremendous. So now Loner coming out that second bunker. It's a little concerning actually for me because it seems like he's sitting in a very defensive position and deciding not to push out with what I expected to be that stim timing push. In fact, we can see right now coming out that reactor on that factory, also coming out the starport and make that hot swap as soon as that is an option. Ooh, and there we go, decides to cancel that as he sees no push coming. Is he going to do it? Will he push out with that? He might be waiting for a couple medevacs before he decides to actually leave the base. But again, the more time that goes on, the more Colossus will be in play. I'm not sure if Loner has actually scouted out those Colossus. No, I don't think he has at all. Hasn't scanned anytime recently, so he does not know currently that there are Colossus in play. 1 already, and here comes a second. Also coming out with a Stargate, and again, the more and more time that goes on, the less effective what I assumed was going to be an early game push from Loner is going to be. He could just be waiting a little bit longer, though, as we are getting double medevacs in play. At least he should be coming out that second one sometime soon. In addition to that, we can also see the level 1 armor upgrade. So Loner may be just waiting a little while longer, getting a stronger force, more upgraded force, and of course adding in those medevacs. Here comes that factory scout, and at this point, Loner will be aware of the fact that Colossus are in play. So let's take a look at that scouting. Is it going to be able to scout today? Yes, it is. There we go. So now Loner does know about those Colossus. Immediately after these medevacs, we are, of course, going to see, as a result, some Vikings coming into play. He should be getting some Vikings right away as a response to seeing those Colossus. That is, of course, the wise thing to do. We can also see an expansion coming out for both players. Loner working his way into his second expansion. Also, TyLooJim getting his second expansion. So both players will be sitting on 3 bases at that point. Here come those double Vikings once more as expected. And wow, look at it, coming out with more and more bunkers. He's really concerned there about this a 2-base push from TyLooJim, but has he just not bothered checking for that third? Yeah, he does not know about that third. A little drop going on inside the main. That'll get quickly taken care of. Oh no, that little huge miss micro there from Loner. Ended up losing a lot. Very, very unfortunate. Lost everything there and did absolutely no damage. Wow, how unfortunate of a situation is that for Loner. So, you know, nothing really took place so far this whole game, but already Loner has lost a ton, also losing some resources, of course, in salvaging those bunkers. So Loner early on, a wee bit behind for no other reason other than his own mistake, his own missed micro in that drop. He could have really saved a lot more than he did, but he kept some guys down a little bit too long, got roasted as a result, and then ended up losing his medevac there to those Phoenixes. So right now, both players working off of 3 bases and continuing to macro up. We are seeing some Phoenix join the fray here for TyLooJim, able to counteract some of those medevacs with that, as well as those Vikings. So not the greatest against the Viking, it helps. It isn't the best unit against the Viking, but it certainly helps in conjunction with any stalkers and or sentries for TyLooJim. And yes, just some more macro going on for both players. A couple more racks getting placed down over here for Loner. In addition to that, more and more upgrades coming out for both players. TyLooJim right now at 0-0, finally coming out with those 1-1 upgrades. And actually, we're going to see Loner's quite significantly ahead here. He's already sitting at 1-1, although he hasn't made that transition into the higher upgrades as we do not have an armory in play. And actually just now coming out with a Ghost Academy as well. So just sticking at 1-1 for now. We'll be throwing some Ghosts in the mix, and he's going very Viking heavy right now. Just 2 after 2 after 2, and wow, he's got two starports churning out these Vikings with reactors. That is intense. He'll be sitting on so many Vikings. He needs to be really careful to not overcommit, although at the moment it does look like TyLooJim is just churning out those Colossus as well. So, I don't know, this could actually work out quite well for him, being so Viking heavy. A couple more gateways getting placed down over here. We've got an SCV chasing down this probe, who is actually going to be dropping a pylon right over there. So we'll have a pylon situated over there, but again, that will be, of course, scouted out by Loner, as he's got that SCV in hot pursuit. Loner also preparing to come out with his 4th base here, and number 5, too. We're going to be building 2 more command centers to prepare to continue to expand. Wouldn't be too surprised if we even tried to take the high yield at some point. And yeah, just not a whole lot of action, just macro here from both players. We're coming up on 15 minutes in-game time. And this is quite an interesting composition here. I don't see this very often. The Phoenix Colossus heavy is what we're seeing here from TyLooJim. So we will, of course, have to see how effective that is going to be. And how effective is Colossus going to be against these heavy Vikings. Look at how many Vikings. Let's take a count here. 17 Vikings at the moment. Also throwing in some Ghost in the mix. He's just got the 1 now. Got another one coming out. That is so many Vikings. TyLooJim fully aware of this too, as he's got his observer scout right there, and there is more and more expansions coming out here for Loner. Loner is just massing up on these command centers. He's preparing to continue into the late macro game. That is quite intense, the number of command centers he is building right now. Really prepared for that transition into just the later stages in macro heavy play. TyLooJim moving out with that probe. Is he planning to drop another pylon anywhere, or is he just scouting? Looks like he will just be grabbing that Xel'Naga tower. Factory scout still situated over here. We got a stalker there, the Xel'Naga tower. We'll be seeing Loner as he makes his push towards the center of the map. Now I'm assuming that this is actually going to come in line here with one of those expansions at that high yield. That's what I'm assuming is about to take place. And there we go, lifting off that command center. We'll be dropping it over there. Probably going to expect to see a planetary fortress, given that it is such a vulnerable position. And here we go right now. TyLooJim preparing to move out. Again, sending Colossus heavy, also a lot of Phoenixes in the mix. Besides that, what has he got at the moment? Tons of Zealots too, a few sentries there. Only 1 Stalker, and that's actually the one at the Xel'Naga tower, and 1 Immortal. Very interesting unit composition here that we're seeing from TyLooJim, and we'll have to see how it holds up, because this is a very bio-heavy force here from Loner. And it's about to take place right now. Both players ready to engage, and here we go. There it is. EMP's getting landed down. Phoenix is moving forward, trying to take out those Vikings. I do not know if he's got enough Phoenixes to deal with those Vikings, though, and those Colossus getting shredded right now by those heavy Viking numbers. And my gosh, we are seeing that Loner is pushed back, because those Colossus numbers were so heavy that with those force fields, he was in actually a really tough position. Those Viking numbers have been thinned up. That was a pretty interesting engagement. Let's take a look at who came out on top. It looks like they were actually about even. I just say that because Loner was a bit behind going into that engagement, and he is still a little bit behind, just about 1,000 resources behind right now, but still, that was about even, that engagement right there. We're going to be seeing continuation there of the unit composition here for TyLooJim as he continues up. That Colossus and Phoenix play also working his way right now up into those 2-2 upgrades. Back over here for Loner, he is actually 1-2 right now. Armor level 2 is coming out. Taking a look at the counts, we've got two Ghosts in play, still with 11 Vikings. He's actually working his way up to get some more medevacs as well. Again, this is just a very interesting unit composition. Now, we also have Charged Zealots in the mix, and that's going to help out quite a bit. Those Viking heavy numbers are going to start to work against him as those Colossus numbers get smaller, and he starts to replace that with just regular ground gateway units. Then all of a sudden he's got all these Vikings which aren't really serving much of a purpose, but still all this bio could do a pretty significant amount of damage. It looks like we are about to see a second engagement. There's an EMP only catching the fringe of the base, and here we go right now. Move forward. We've seen a few force fields go down. Charged Zealots work their way to move on in. Vikings trying to slam down those Colossus. However, they are targeting those Phoenixes instead, and that is not what Loner wants them to be doing. He wants them to focus down those Colossus. Continuing up the push right now, more and more Charged Zealots moving forward. Phoenix is engaging those Vikings, and vice versa, but it's an EMP get landed down, but Loner getting pushed back right now as TyLooJim continues his push. Heavy Charged Zealot, Colossus, and Phoenix play. Loner dropping a scan just to check for reinforcements. Obviously, he wants to know what he is up against. TyLooJim has his 4th base right now up. He's going to be working to get that saturated shortly. And here comes another push. We saw another EMP take out a lot of the energy there of those sentries. And doing what he can. Loner's trying to work through this army, but this is looking a little too overpowering, and the Phoenixes are still in play. sniping down the last of the Vikings and forcing the GG. We saw a very macro-heavy game here. The last engagement actually ended up going to TyLooJim. Although Loner was very Viking-heavy, the major issue he ran up against was that his Vikings were constantly engaging the Phoenix of TyLooJim instead of engaging those Colossus. That allowed the Colossus to tear through the bio and eventually result in the GG. Alright guys, that was the 5th and final game here in this series. It does look like TyLooJim came out on top. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed the commentary. As always, if you like the content, please subscribe. Thanks again guys. Keep watching and keep owning.